What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for Week 9 of the 2021 CFL season. I'm Ryan Coop here with your running back preview for this week. If you missed it, I had the quarterback preview out earlier today, and I'll have wide receivers, defense, and depth chart update out later today as well, because the first game of the week comes on Tuesday with the Edmonton Elks and the Ottawa Red Blacks. So you'll need to start getting your lineup, thinking about it in time for that game if you want any of those players. But let's go through the running backs today and take a look at which options I have in the green light, yellow light, and red light category. Let's pull them up here for you. There's really, you can see I have the starters here. I'll go through some of the backup options yet as well. There's really only one starter I love for week number 9, and it's James Wilder Jr. He's been the most consistent running back on the season, averaging 17.7 points. He's put up a couple big weeks for you. Last time around against the Bombers, he put up 25.1. He did that against Ottawa in week number 1 as well. He's facing the Red Blacks team where, frankly, assuming things go according to what I expect, Edmonton should be decently ahead in this game, and James Wilder Jr. should have himself a nice day and get a good bulk of carries. Either way, even if Trevor Harris is back in the lineup, maybe ease him back in, recovering from injury, or with Taylor Cornelius starting, lean on James Wilder Jr. because he's been effective this year. The price point is getting high. 24.1 points is a lot to expect out of a running back on a certain week. And I think it's tough for him to hit that without picking up at least one touchdown. But I do still think he is the best play of the week against that Ottawa defense. So I really like James Wilder Jr., even though the salary is getting high for him. Couple that I have in the yellow light. William Stanback had the best day last week at 25.4 points against the Argos. He finally... What changed for Stanback was he finally got more involved in the receiving game. He got, I think, 3 or 4 receptions there. He also got a touchdown for the second time this year. So, look, Stanback's been the most consistent rusher, perhaps, in the league. He has 3 straight weeks of 100 yards or more. He is, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in the CFL, and I don't think there's any dispute there. But it's tough for a running back to hit those totals if he's not getting involved in the passing game. And last time around, let's take a look at what he did against Hamilton. 5.2 points. His worst game of the year came last time around against the Ticats. So I'm a bit nervous that you're not going to get value out of that. I need to see him a little more consistently used in that passing game and maybe, get in for those touchdowns more consistently because I think Montreal just has so many options available to score the touchdown. They can throw the ball. They have some great receivers there. Vernon Adams has good legs on him and can run them in himself. So I'm a little cautious on Stanback hitting you full value this week, especially against the Ticats defense that is getting much better against the run. For the Riders, I'm also cautious on William Powell. I think the matchup with Calgary is good. But it's a case of which William Powell are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that in weeks 6 and 7 had a ton of carries and put up at least 15 points in both of those games? Or are we going to get the one that took a step back and put up just 8.7 against BC last week and 6.1 against the Bombers the week before? You need 19.5 for a full 2.5 points per $1,000, which I deem as giving you full value because it helps you get to a 100-point week. Powell, his highest total on the year is 15.7, so he hasn't had a monstrous game quite yet. He really hasn't put the touchdowns on the board, so I'm cautious on Powell. I think there's the potential if he can get a touchdown in one of these games that he's going to put that total up for you, but I could also see him not once again this week, so he's definitely not a lock to me. I'm saying stay away from Kadeem Carey. And he was a lock for a couple weeks in a row for me. He had 3 really good weeks in a row where he put up good value for you. He had, going back to week 3, 22.1 against Montreal, 19.2 against Winnipeg in week 4, 12.7 against Edmonton in week number 5. But then his last 2 games, just 4.5 and 2.6. And those are the 2 games since Bo Levi Mitchell's return. They seem to, for whatever reason, even with Bo struggling, just want to go to the passing game over and over. Carey's not getting the ball a whole ton. He also hasn't picked up the touchdowns because they haven't really gotten near the end zone a whole ton for him to do so yet either. So I think his production was a little touchdown dependent there in the middle weeks where he was having good days. And so I'm saying stay away from him now, especially because he faces a Riders defense that is one of the best in the CFL against the run. They don't give up a ton of points to running backs. I say stay away from Kadeem Carey this week until we see a good bounce back game. And they play the Riders a couple times in a row here, so maybe stay away from him this week, and if it goes well, maybe consider putting him back in next week into your lineup. I'm also staying away from Andrew Harris. I forgot to touch on him at the top of the chart. I guess I started with the green white option, then went into some yellow white, then stepped into the red white, and look, I'm all over the place. It's early Monday morning. I'm trying to get all these previews out. But we'll touch on all the players here. Andrew Harris, also stay away from him. $10,065 salary. The price point's just way too high. He's averaging 14 on the year. Hasn't really had a monstrous game this year either. BC is one of the worst teams in the league against running backs. Andrew Harris, is always going to be fired up to play his former team. But I think 25.2 is a lot to ask at that salary from him and the production we've seen this year. I like the matchup for Wilder Jr. against Ottawa more than I like Harris against the Lions this week. And then going back to those yellow lights, Sean Thomas Erlington for the Ticats. He has to be a yellow light just because who knows what happens with Hamilton's backfield. Last week he was listed as the third string running back and doubtful and ended up taking the bulk of the carries. Jackson Bennett was the starter, got 0. Malik Irons spelled in for a couple plays. Pappy White always gets in for a couple plays. Brandon Banks is in the lineup. He'll probably get a couple carries. Braylon Addison has. The list goes on. I can't lock in a Ticats running back because who knows how many reps they're going to get. They don't run the ball an absolute ton. So I think it's a cautionary tale with Thomas Erlington. Last time around against Montreal, he did put up 14.5 points. Got involved nicely, I think, in the passing game in that one. Maybe got a touchdown. So he could put you the value this week, and I am considering him because there aren't a ton of great running back options this week. But you do need to be cautious of the timeshare with those other players that take some of the carries away from him. I'm also cautious on Shaq Cooper of the BC Lions. The matchup with Winnipeg is ideal. Like 19.1 points is what the running backs are averaging against them. You need 12.8 for full value out of Shaq Cooper. He's not at a high price point. Last week he did have one of the best running back days of the week. I think second best perhaps behind William Stanback. 16.7 points against the Riders last week, who were good against the run. But that came solely through the passing game. I think he had maybe negative 1 yard in carries and had 7 catches that got you to that point total. I don't know if Shaq Cooper's getting 7 catches on every week. Look, BC doesn't run the ball. It's plain and simple. They barely run the ball at all. To me, it's not advised taking a running back from the Lions. The only reason I put him cautious is because the price is low and the matchup with Winnipeg is good. And maybe they lean on that this week, but you could, if he gets a couple of those catches, get closer to value. I don't think he gets 7 catches again this week, and so I put him as a cautionary tale. I'm not downright staying away from him because he's a talented back and the matchup's good, but they do not run the ball over in BC. I'm also cautious on Timothy Flanders. I picked him last week. He worked out decently well at 10.2 points. Got at least 2 points per thousand. 5,067 is the salary. The matchup with Edmonton I don't love. They're the best team in the league against running backs in terms of fantasy points so far this year. I think Flanders could be leaned on pretty heavily, though, if they are starting a rookie quarterback, which it appears they are. So I do kind of like Flanders as a cheaper option, but it's Ottawa's offense. It's a tight matchup with the Edmonton's giving up 9.6 to running backs this year. I think it's a tough matchup for Flanders, but if you're looking for a cheaper play from a starting running back, I think he is one of the more intriguing ones. Taking a look at some of the other running back options as well. Anthony Coombs, an air quotes running back. Really, he's a slot back. I don't know why he's still listed as a running back, but hey, he is put in the running back position, so you can pick him at that spot. $4,699, 11.7 is what you're looking at for full value. Last game, just 3.4 against Hamilton. The week before, 16.2 against BC. So if he gets somewhere in the middle there, it could pay off. If he can get 5 catches or so for 50, 60 yards, that should put you close to the value you need. The problem is, who knows what we're going to expect from Ottawa's passing game this week. I have no idea what to expect from Caleb Evans or Taylor Christian, who one of those two is likely getting the start. I think it's going to be tough to get full value out of Anthony Coombs. I'm saying stay away from Chris Rainey and James Butler. Rainey is tempting against the Bombers because they're not great at stopping the return game this year, but Rainey he did just miss last week's game with an injury. You need 9.8 to get full value. I think that's a tall task for a returner unless he can really break it like Devontae Dedmon has for a couple games for Ottawa this year. I say stay away from Rainey. I think there's better options available. James Butler, also stay away from him, even if he is the starting running back again. BC doesn't run the ball, and you might fall victim to depth chart shenanigans like they did last week when they put Butler as the starter and then Shaq Cooper got most of the carries. A couple other cheap options that are interesting to me. Ante Milanovic-Litre, $3,000. You really don't need a ton for him. If he gets a couple dump passes from Bo Levi Mitchell, you're getting close to your value out of him, at least. Last game, he put up 6 points. He's had a couple hovering around that set. He had a 7.3 and a 9-point performance earlier in the year, and then 3 points or less in all the games in between. So 4.6 average is not great. I probably wouldn't recommend going Milanovic-Litre's direction, but if you are looking to save some cash, I do think he still gets involved at least a little bit in each and every game for you, for the running backs in Calgary. Same thing, Malik Irons, not going to get you a ton of points. The ceiling's pretty hot, or pretty low, sorry. But if he can even put you up 2 or 3 points, you're not missing out on a ton, just 3 points back of the full value out of him there. If you really need to punt it at the running back position, Irons is an option and should hopefully still get some plays in there, but who knows what happens with the Ticats running back situation. And then Jamal Morrow is out of these cheaper options. I think I like his the best. $2,500 last week. He put up you full value at, let me just see if I can find it here on my chart. Where is Jamal Morrow? 7.8 points is what he put up last week. He's an explosive returner. He's had weeks also of 5 and 5.7 against Winnipeg, and then 2.4 against Toronto in between. But again, you don't need a ton of points out of a cheap $2,500 option. And the thing I like about picking a return guy there is you have a floor. He's going to put you points up, no matter what, presumably, unless for whatever reason Calgary never kicks the ball. But I do not see that happening in this game. So there's the floor there. He gets a big return. That's getting you close to the value you want out of Jamal Morrow. So there is room to save some money if you do want to go for a cheap returner option there and just punt running back position, or save yourself the money to spend on a guy like James Wilder Jr., who is my biggest lock of the week at the running back position. And then cautious on a couple other guys in between and staying away from the likes of Andrew Harris, Kadeem Carey, Chris Rainey, and James Butler. That does it for your running back preview for week number 9. Stay tuned for later today. I'll have the wide receivers and the defense as well. Go back, check out the quarterback preview. And then also I'll have your depth chart update later today or early on Tuesday as well. To get you all set to set your lineups before the first game of the week, Tuesday night. If you haven't, do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you like, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section, or tweet them at me at CooperTooper42. It starts with a K. You can find the link in the video description. If you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, you can check the video description as well. I have a link there to the official league on the official CFL Fantasy site. Play alongside myself and others this week and every week throughout the 2021 CFL season. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.